Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here, yeehaw, and this little guy was just released into Pokemon Unite. Let's talk about it in this video. Should you buy Comfey? Let's go. I like to make a should you buy video every time a new Pokemon comes out, give you my take on this Pokemon after playing it for a while on stream, and give you a lot of the information about it so you can make your decision as to whether or not this is something that you should pick up. First, I will say that they give you a free trial license for this Pokemon. Before you do anything, I would absolutely recommend you use that. That is one of the best ways to find out if you actually like this Pokemon. But I'm going to give you everything I know about this Pokemon and some recommendations for who would like it and maybe who would not like it. Comfey is a supporter Pokemon. We have a lot of amazing supporters inside of Pokemon Unite right now, and Comfey is entering into a very intensely contested field. I mean, these Pokemon are all very, very good. Blissey, Clefable recently buffed, Hoopa recently buffed, Mime is insane. There are so many good supports. Eldegoss is amazing right now. Sableye is just this crazy, crazy thing. So there's a lot in the supporter category that is really exciting. And Comfey is released into the game in a very interesting state. Yeah, I'll just start talking to you about what I think is going on with Comfey. Comfey apparently is going to be legal for the Pokemon Unite Championship Series in the February finals. So you can't use it in the qualifiers, which are coming up in a few days. You can use it in the February finals. And in my eyes, what has happened is they have released a Pokemon underpowered because this Pokemon could be a little game breaking if it was crazy OP and powerful, and they didn't want to bring that into the February finals. That's my first initial thought, is that is what they've done with this Pokemon. And yes, by saying that, I am letting you know that I think this Pokemon is underpowered. I think Comfey is surprisingly weak for what you need to do to make this Pokemon work. Comfey provides shields and healing to its allies by gathering flowers, attaching itself to an ally, and then healing that ally. So the one thing that you can't really figure out with Comfey is really how much you are providing to your team in a shielding perspective. They don't have a stat inside the game for that right now, and you might actually be getting some pretty good shields with it. But the amount of healing that you get for the work that you need to do feels completely out of whack. You get more from an Eldegoss's Pollen Puff that you can just throw at an ally. You get more from Blissey just pressing a button and throwing an egg at an ally. With Comfey, you literally have to attach to them. You have to then heal them. And to get sizable healing, you would have to disengage from that attachment, break off, head into some tall grass or hit some boosted attacks, reattach yourself, and heal again. The process for that just seems so unbelievably complex compared to all the other healers in the game, and the healing is not substantially better. In fact, I think it's worse than many of the healers in the game. It's possible that the shielding on top of that is somewhat decent, but in general, just the lengths you have to go through to make the healing on this Pokemon work, I think make absolutely no sense. Its other move, Sweet Kiss, is sort of a reverse Sableye. So instead of pushing enemies away from you with fear, you will hit them and they will start to slowly walk towards you. They won't be able to attack. I think there are probably some cool combinations with this, but it's just a really tough Pokemon slot to be used. Why do you want a slot used up by this ability? Because that's kind of what you have to look at when you're looking at a match. Would you rather have this Pokemon on your team or Clefable, Blissey, Mime, etc.? Any of these other Pokemon? And right now for me, the answer is I would rather have any of those other Pokemon. And I don't want to be a big downer because I was really excited for Comfey. I just have to say that, man, it doesn't feel very powerful, sadly enough. It's just kind of weak. It's kind of weak. As far as its two damaging moves go, Magical Leaf and Grass Knot, I feel like Magical Leaf is the clear winner here, and it's because you don't have to target anyone to make this move work. Grass Knot actually does pretty good damage, but the way you have to aim it, there are times where you're not going to hit your targets because the ally that you are attached to is moving in a way that you did not anticipate when you were aiming your move. And that's actually a really interesting situation with this move. I'm thinking the way to fix this would be to even just give it its plus range. So the plus version of Grass Knot is much larger. Even give it the sort of width of, and even maybe even more length on the Grass Knot Plus. Give it that on the basic. Maybe you would hit Grass Knot more often and you could set up some more cool things with it. Right now it's just too unreliable, which makes Magical Leaf the move, which is probably for the best. It's pretty good. It does consistent damage. It stuns enemies. It's actually a pretty solid setup for Comfey. However, you're not going to be leaving your games doing as much damage as you might think you did after having let your Magical Leaf sort of hit enemies for as long as it possibly could. You actually surprisingly walk out of games at very, very low damage, which again might not be the end of the world because you're a supporter, but you're also walking out of games without crazy amounts of healing. I think the best game I had on Comfey healing wise was around 80,000, and that feels pretty low. Stacking on top of this, you have its Unite move, which also unfortunately just feels kind of underwhelming and a little tough to use, and I can't tell exactly how much your healing is affected, and if you have to get your special flowers. They say you get special flowers from being inside the Unite move. I can't really tell how big that is. However, it feels like your healing is increased by quite a bit when you use your Unite move, but at the same time, sometimes it almost feels like your healing should be close to that normally, honestly. This feels like a Pokemon that has a silver lining to it, so I'm giving you a lot of negative about this Pokemon, but I think the big silver lining with this Pokemon is that it's going to get a buff. That's the biggest silver lining. I don't see a reality where this Pokemon gets anything but a buff. I don't know how soon it will happen, however, but yeah, I think that's the biggest exciting thing about Comfey is there's some cool stuff going on. It's just not at a state where it's powerful enough to enjoy, I would say. Then you have the other issue is you're going to see Comfeys inside your games and they're just not going to be that impressive or impactful, and you're going to be maybe a little bit frustrated. Maybe you won't, your mileage will vary, but you could be quite frustrated with how they play or what they contribute to the team when there are so many other options for your squad. While I'm here, I figure I could briefly talk about builds. So again, I really do think the Floral Healing, the healing move that you get, not Sweet Kiss, and Magical Leaf are the ways to play this Pokemon. Floral Healing, Magical Leaf feels like the strongest setup for this. I think an EXP share is an absolute must-have item. I don't really think you could go with anything else. Outside of that, I felt the most beneficial to my squad when I had stacked on it, when I stacked special attack specs so I could actually get bigger healing and bigger damage. I don't know all of the scaling for this Pokemon, so it could be slightly off, but that just feels like when I was getting the most out of this Pokemon where I stacked up with it. It doesn't really seem like you need any other items for defense because you spend a lot of time attached to an ally Pokemon, and you wouldn't bounce off of an ally in combat in a situation where you're going to get yourself stunned, you know, with some crowd control effects like slows, knock up, stuns, things like that. So in that sense, I don't know if you really need to build health on it. You probably could get away with going something like EXP share, special attack specs, and either choice specs, wise glasses, shell bell, something like that might be the best possible solution for this Pokemon. I was thinking maybe Muscle Band because you can, again, bounce off and then you're using... Oh, I should mention this. When you're attached to an ally, you can't use any of your basic attacks. So you can only use your moves. When you bounce off, you can use your basic attacks. Maybe Muscle Band, there's something to that. But then you spend so much time attached to an ally that it's really hard to want to make that better. So I feel like special attack items probably fill the other two slots where I don't know if you could really effectively play this Pokemon without experience share. It feels like it needs experience share. And as far as boost emblems are concerned, this Pokemon feels like it's all about its cooldowns. So 7 black is a must for this Pokemon. Green as well, just to, you know, get more healing, more damage. That makes sense. Just 7 black, 6 green feels like a very, very good build. You might even lean full cooldown with things like Mewtwo and stuff like that, just because having its moves up is so incredibly important. Again, that's what it feels like early, so maybe things will change, but I really think that's about where this Pokemon is at. You just get so much value when you're attached to an ally, and you bounce off and bounce back on to give more healing, so there aren't a lot of other things that you would want to upgrade. So I hope I gave you a pretty good overview of what's going on with Comfey. I wish I was more excited about this Pokemon, but honestly, I'm really not right now. I think it's pretty undertuned, and again, that's probably the only positive, is that if you're excited for this Pokemon and you're playing it right now, you're in luck because it's going to get better. This Pokemon cannot stay this way. It just isn't strong enough in the current meta, I would say. So that's my take on Comfey. I would definitely use the trial license and see what you think. But in general, I think I have to recommend staying away from this Pokemon at the start. I don't often think this when I play a new Pokemon. Some of them come out and they're totally busted and insane amounts of fun. I think there's some fun to be had with Comfey. Oh, by the way, when you play this Pokemon, you're going to be attached to some allies and you're going to get a front row seat to see them doing some of the most questionable things that you've ever seen. I had allies walk, I'm attached to them, they walk away from goal. When Regieleki is pushing in, they just walk away, let it walk in, no enemies there or anything like that. You're just gonna see some plays that blow your mind. I think Comfey will turn your solo queue into an absolute nightmare. That's my thought. Anyway, again, I just can't really recommend this Pokemon right now. I'm excited to see what they do with it when they buff it, because I think it definitely needs some buffs. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you did pick it up, let me know what you think. If you're using the trial, let me know what you think playing it inside the game. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to see if you think anything different. It felt like everyone was feeling about the same thing in the chat as well, but I would love to hear from you if you didn't get to experience it live. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. More cool stuff coming soon. I love you.